Burning Sins, Chapter 1, Part 4. Cadenza and Shining Armor, the source of the magic, found themselves locked in a tight embrace as the light from within dissipated. Their hardship now past, and the day saved from ruination. Quite a way to celebrate their union, they'd say. Both were relieved to find each other unharmed, and it showed as they looked to each other. Twilight Sparkle was quick to run off to the side of the room, catching Princess Celestia and her magic, and lowering her to the floor as the cocoon was destroyed. Setting the Princess of the Sun upright, the taller, more regal Alicorn took a few labored breaths before calming her nerves. Coming out of stasis had shocked her, but didn't leave her deterred for long. With her magic stabilizing itself and her mane resuming its ethereal flow, she was able to get a good grasp on what was around her, and find her student before her. Helped to her feet, the eldest Alicorn of Equestria smiled.
Don't worry about me, my pupil. I am fine.
She turned her gaze towards Princess Cadenza and Shining Armor, her smile remaining as twilight mirrored it. She watched as her two closest ponies were finally ready to be engaged in wedlock.
I believe you have a real wedding to put together.
Ohio, North America, 2012. Whoa. Nathan felt himself stumble a bit as he was hit with some sort of invisible force. It was like a strong gust of wind had just nearly swept him off of his feet, while an array of near-transparent rainbow colors assaulted his eyes. He scrambled backwards on the small incline in the hillside of the forest he was traveling through, looking around as he waited for more wind currents to come along. None ever did. What the hell was that? Is there a storm coming? He hadn't heard of any rolling through, but then again, he did decide to settle down in Ohio. After he had dealt with Paxton and his family, he took his first step in a new life to Ohio. A literal rural bar fight of a state, but also calming when you're not standing in the center of the cesspit of a city that is Columbus. Where Nathan lived right now was in a solitary section of Thornville. It was a small, neighborly area, a place where he'd meet new people, find a new calling. Hell, he'd already had a job that paid decent money at Amazon. That aside, he occasionally went into the forest behind his house for some fresh wood for his fireplace. Fallen trees still had good wood to harvest and burn, and during the vicious storms of last spring, there were still some good ones lying about a mile into the tree line. This was his fourth trip in, and it was only now that he was hit with that sudden wave of harsh, colorful wind. Sitting himself up against the hillside, Nathan rubbed his eyes, then shook his head. He believed himself crazy, going delirious from a lack of sleep. I mean, shit, he's been up for a good while trying to build the new barn he had out back. He had to pull an all-nighter because he wouldn't have time until next weekends to continue on it. So, might as well do all that he could. With it only being 2/3 the way done, Nathan was ready to take a break. He had amassed a good pile of wood already, but this last batch would be it before he clocked out for the night. Standing up, he walked the rest of the way down, ignoring the oddness he was feeling as well as what had happened in favor of getting this done so he'd be able to sleep. Finding the last section where he found some decent logs, he gathered up another 5 hefty pieces and piled them into his arms. Turning and moseying back up the hill, his ears began to pick up on something as he was trailing back up the path to his home. It sounded like music. Slow orchestra music. Something akin to a very romantic, wedding-like setting. A jingle that reminded anyone of the comfort of their own music box, but played on a piano. Nathan blinked as he looked up the hill, noticing that it wasn't going as far up as he'd remembered. Was he always able to get up to the top this fast? Actually, never mind that. What was that music? Where was it coming from? Approaching the top of the hill, he found more foliage and trees ahead of him, the leaves and bark looking different than the trees he left behind. The bark was of a different texture, and the patterns on the leaves were all identical and traditional to that seen on a drawing. Stopping by one to examine it, his ears picked up the music again, drawing his attention to his right and pulling him in its direction. He figured that it might have been some pesky runts having a party, but that'd be too simple of an answer. Besides, what bomb-ass party had slow wedding music?
Let's get this party started!
Nathan slowed his pace again, raising an eyebrow as the music he'd expected finally rang out through the forest. Oh, yep, that was definitely the kind of heavy beat he was waiting for. These kids must have put on the slow music first to drive off any adults from pestering them about their heavy metal and hard rock. But this sounded more like upbeat DJ pop than anything. Still though, might as well tell them to keep it down before some old man comes at them with a shotgun. Again. Reaching the edge of the forest, as the music was now accompanied by singing, Nathan turned past several trees that lingered at the edge of the forest, coming around the corner of the tree line to find... Nathan stood, dumbfounded by what he was seeing. He didn't know if he had huffed something from the logs he was carrying, or if he was so fucking tired he was hallucinating what he was seeing. But before him was a large wedding reception filled to the brim with a maximum capacity of ponies. Unicorns, pegasi, and just regular horse-like humans fluttered about with bodies that men and women would kill for. The heavy beat was coming from a large speaker system on the other side of the clearing. The entire area was some sort of high-class courtyard with shrubbery laced with roses and flowers. Just behind it was the largest structure Nathan had seen in his life. A marble castle that was decked out in ornaments of white, gold, and various shades of pink and purple. It was as if Nathan had stepped into some fucking fairy tale. What the hell was he even looking at? And oh my god, they spoke. They spoke American English. That purple one fucking spoke American? At this point, any strength used to carry the logs was lost as Nathan's arm slumped to his side. The wood fell and cluttered together, creating an audible noise loud enough for one of them to hear. A cry of alarm and surprise startled another, then another, and soon everyone in the party was staring back at the confused former serial murderer and mafia soldier. The beat was cut off as the DJ took the needle off the disc, and all that accompanied either side was a stuttering silence. No one made a move. No one spoke a word. One side was confused beyond capacity, and the other was fearful and alert. I mean, after what happened to them, how could they not be? Yet, as they stared at the lone straggler that had come upon them, the only words Nathan could culminate after minutes of trying to wrap his brain around what he was seeing were three very logical ones. What the fuck? Yes, there were singing parts in this, but I also didn't want to torture your ears, I'm sorry. But either way, I can't wait to see what happens in Chapter 2. Now let's get on to our maybe tripped out donators. Top donators: Jessie, Smith630, BadassWaffle, Only One Thing, Ceru, Orion, and Caladis. Magic, JockeTF, Luciisu, Darkside, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel, Sky, Austin, Rolan, Zorba, Mordred, Omicron, Library, Runeslight, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Rice, Soul, Shadowman, Luigi, Chancer Crust, Big Smoke, Bobcat, Murder Princess, Jet, Little Mighty, Solar Symphony, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.